Thorfinn's journey in Vinland Saga is one of the most tragic and emotionally gut-wrenching stories out there, and the way Makoto Yukimura presents this story for us is nothing but exemplary. The evolution Thorfinn goes through from his childhood to adulthood, the trials and tribulations he faces due to the misguided life he lived, to the empty husk that he becomes in season 2, showing us what a person who's guided by a single goal becomes when they lose that goal, and what they go through as a result, was an absolutely fascinating journey to follow. The opening episodes make a good job of hooking you in, and within it there are multiple reasons that made his journey so compelling for me to follow. I was very interested to see Thorfinn's attitude to the mishaps in his life, how he will succumb into becoming the one thing his father created, and also how he'll rise from it. And boy, I was not disappointed. But before you get into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers, and without further ado, let's get back into it. Thorfinn from a young age romanticized wars and being a warrior. He used to swing his wooden sword playing around, imagining that he was actually one. He used to also blurt about him defeating the enemy, which wasn't looked favorably by Thorfinn's father, which we see in the scene where Thor grabs Thorfinn aggressively, staring deep into his eyes maniacally, telling him that he has no enemies. We come to know that this scene has so much substance when we learn about Thor's past, the senseless killing Thor has committed all throughout his life, leaving him numb and fed up that he doesn't even think twice to flee the battlefield, risking the punishment of death, which eventually catches up with him. And we see that culminating in the epic scene where he got pierced by multiple arrows and passes away standing Whitebeard style, which was all witnessed by the young and impressionable Thorfinn, who makes it his life's mission to avenge his father. Thorfinn from this point on becomes a single-minded individual who'll do anything to kill his father's murderer. But I'd like to say something about this fact. It was kinda frustrating to watch Thor to try and take revenge on Askeladd, while the true perpetrator being Floki. He was the one who hired Askeladd to kill Thorfinn's father. And when I say frustrating, it's not a slight on the story, because it shows just how revenge could blind you and drive you into ruin. And I've come to find out that Thorfinn gets to know about Floki while doing research for this video, so I'm quite happy about that. Thorfinn, after witnessing his father's death, becomes so obsessed with having his revenge, he even joins the group of Vikings that killed his father, just to keep track of Askeladd, until the day comes he's strong enough to beat him. And this says a lot about Askeladd, allowing a person who's gunning for him on board their crew. Yes, Thorfinn is a useful warrior, but that's not the only reason he kept tolerating Thorfinn's shenanigans of trying to kill him. It's a topic that needs its own video, analyzing Askeladd's character and the inner workings of his mind. Thorfinn's attitude to the misfortune that has occurred to him, i.e. his father's death, was this single-minded destructive goal, which was the one thing Thor didn't want happening to Thorfinn. See, Thor was a man that has experienced the ruthlessness and meaninglessness of just going to wars and taking the lives of people. Many other soldiers, such as Thorkel, who was Thor's acquaintance back when he was a soldier, found their own way of coping to this unending killing of people. For Thor, it was to abandon it all and to turn a new leaf where there's no mindless killings and do something meaningful, such as taking care of his family. For Thorkel, it was quite the opposite. He decided to dictate the rules of the battlefield for himself, such as searching for fearsome opponents or switching sides just to increase the difficulty of the battle and making it more exciting for himself. It seems that Thorkel chose the more hedonistic path, while Thor's the more responsible. But I digress. Thor miserably fails at shaping Thorfinn the way he wanted, as a result, Thorfinn becoming the person his father so much dreaded. Talk about tragic. Thorfinn from that moment on doesn't just become a bloodthirsty warrior, he becomes the bloodthirsty warrior, to the point of being called upon to complete the most vicious, cunning and atrocious missions. And one of those missions was a sad and heartbreaking one. Thorfinn was scouting and he gets noticed by the enemy soldier and gets hit by an arrow and barely escapes and passes out. He gets rescued by an old lady and her daughter. They try communicating with him, but Thorfinn doesn't speak their language, which makes them understand that he is one of the enemy soldiers. But regardless, they tend to his wounds, feed him, and even cover up for him when they were confronted by the soldier looking for Thorfinn. Thorfinn, as per his job, goes to signal Askeladd for the attack, but not without alerting the old lady and her daughter. The old lady is perplexed as to how a kid is a warrior and is saddened by the fact. She follows Thorfinn and just stares at him with tears dropping from her eyes as he killed 3 soldiers and casually burned a civilian house just to signal, which makes Thorfinn take a step back and think about his family. This moment was very sad and just emphasizes how Thorfinn had gone astray. Such a powerful scene and definitely one of my favorites. But all these atrocities Thorfinn had committed becomes undone when Askeladd gets executed. When Thorfinn lost Askeladd, he lost his sole purpose in life at that moment. And it was interesting to see how Thorfinn would rise from this. How is he going to find the answer that will pull him from the emptiness that he finds himself in? Well, that's the journey season 2 takes us to. Thorfinn becomes hollowed. He doesn't have any motivations, he just takes orders and executes. But that slowly starts to change when he gets acquainted with Einar. Einar is a boy who had his family slaughtered by warriors, and when he gets acquainted with Thorfinn, it gets us intrigued for what will happen when Einar finds out that Thorfinn was a warrior and had done deeds that is similar to what caused Einar's family's death. And we get to that point, and I just got to say that scene was one of the most harrowing and heartfelt scene in all of season 2. Einar tries to murder Thorfinn, but he couldn't. He also sees that Thorfinn feels guilt and is haunted by his past, which Einar gets to understand since Thorfinn has nightmares and such. He forgives Thorfinn. They develop a friendship slowly, working, fighting, and living together for years. This time spent in the farm slowly allows for Thorfinn to soul search and find his purpose. And searching for answers doesn't come that easy. Sometimes it takes a really long time to find life's truth. Reminds me of the manga panel in Vagabond where Musashi is sitting and grasps the fact that it took him 22 years to just find out that the thing he's been after for so long, being unrivaled under the sun, was merely just a phrase and nothing more. Thorfinn's loss of purpose and regaining it is akin to many that we've seen in anime, but one that comes to mind is 86's main protagonist Shinya Nozen. And the similarity that I see in both is that it's like they didn't lose their purpose, but they just forgot it. It teaches us that when you feel hopeless and purposeless in life, it's okay to sit still in that feeling and the answer will eventually come to us. It might take an hour or a decade, but it will eventually come. It's almost like we don't lose hope, but choose not to see it. If you've made it this far into the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you guys in the next one.